Welcome to Practical Shooting Video Volume 5, Winning IDPA Techniques. I'm Matt Burkett and this is Kevin Elpers. Today we'll be covering the guns and gear for the sport, a bunch of safety issues, shooting several stages, and helping you decrease your times on the classifier. Let's get started with a safety discussion. Now we're going to cover some of the safety aspects of IDPA. First, we're going to go over the holster. Now, all of your equipment has to be behind the center line of the body. So a good rule of thumb to work with there is if you have your trigger guard or your mag pouches beyond the seam of the pants that you're wearing, it works out pretty well. And you also don't want, from a safety aspect, that holster allowing the muzzle of the gun to point at your leg or your butt. Okay? Now let's take a look at his gear on his other side here. Now, he's got that nice and in the back. You can see the position on my equipment too. That'll keep you legal for the sport. All right, now sweeping is where you draw the gun and you cover parts of your body, or you open a doorway, or you're in a car and you do that. So when you're drawing that gun, if you take your left hand and you bring it into the body like this, or you bring that arm down so you don't possibly sweep yourself when you're drawing, it's a lot safer. Perfect. Now notice he's got his finger out of the trigger guard because he's not pointing at a target. When you're not pointing at a target, keep it out. The only time it should ever go in is when you're on target. Keep it simple, okay? We want to go straight from the holster out to the target. Go ahead and show that. I'm going to show you two other examples of bad things here. He's going to go first, he's going to go straight out to the target. Now there's no sweeping, that looked great. Now show him what dipping looks like. Okay. That's dipping or scooping. That can possibly cover your leg when you're doing it. And then you've got the guys that like to go the equivalent of duck hunting, which is the fishing technique. So we don't want to do any of those, just straight out to the target, nice and safe. Go ahead and holster it back up. Now the 180 is a imaginary line on the range that goes across the range, and we don't want to ever break that with the muzzle. Now, it's not necessarily a rule in IDPA. It's just a good safety thing to work with. We don't want to have the problem of pointing a gun at the SO or any of the other shooters out there. So we just right here. We don't want to bring it past that. When we're drawing, we don't want to have that gun come out in any position where that can be pointing rearwards. It's nice and safe. Now, picking up equipment off of the ground, when you have something on the ground like a magazine, holster your gun before you go to pick that up. All right?
We see that as a real common problem when we SO matches, that people get in a hurry unloading their gun. You've got all the time in the world. You're done with your stage. Relax, take your time unloading your gun. It's very important.
All right. Kevin, why don't you give me the commands?
Okay. Let's load and make ready, Matt.
All right, now I'm just going to load to the capacity for my division. I like keeping the gun out, taking the magazine out, and swapping it right at the gun to get the gun up to capacity, and then holstering up. Now, you can't do two things in IDPA. That's air gunning, which is having the hands up on the target like this, acting like you're aiming at it, or taking a sight picture when you're loading and making ready. So the gun just comes up, we load it, put it back in the holster. Go ahead and clear me out. Okay. I just got done shooting a stage.
Okay, unload and show clear.
I'm going to take that magazine out, holster it up, let that round fall out. He's going to actually visually inspect the chamber of the gun. Let the slide go forward. We're going to aim it at a target or safely downrange. Pull the trigger. That way we know the gun is completely empty. And then reholster. All right, that'll help you keep safer in the sport. We're here with Kurt Von Rice, one of the Arizona match directors. He runs a lot of the IDPA events around here and runs the Arizona State Championship.
Yes, I've run the last 4 Arizona State Championships as the match director, and I'm one of IDPA headquarters' official safety officer instructors.
Okay. Well, Kurt's going to help us out with the scoring system, so we're going to go over and take a look at a target and actually talk about the way the IDPA matches are scored. So the basic scoring system is a time-added system.
It's a time-added scoring system, yes. Basically, each round on a target or fired at a target is worth a total of 5 points. if it hits in what they call the down zero zones. Any point that you lose off of that shot is time added to your score. It's a half second per point.
Okay, now I know that most of the people I've talked to in the IDPA shooting don't actually realize that the hits are actually worth points because you don't see it in the scoring system. It's your time plus your points down.
Right,
You know?
but if you miss a target with a round, then you've lost 5 points. So that's the basic understanding, is that each shot is worth 5 points.
Okay, so 5 points being 2.5 seconds.
Correct.
Okay, so your basic zero zones are in the upper part right here.
The full head, correct.
And then you have a round zero zone in the body, which
Right.
is different than the other targets. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Right.
Then you got down 1 and down 3.
Correct.
Okay, so down 1 and you drop a half a second. Down 3, you're down 1.5 seconds. Now there's another issue that comes up with this kind of target. If you're firing at it twice and you don't get a total of 4 points on the target, which you can't really see.
Right. You get what's known as a failure to neutralize. It's a penalty that is added to your score sheet on top of the points down for that target. So it's a 4-point minimum to neutralize a target. So 2 hits and a down 3 would give you a total of 4 points. You'd be down 6 out of the 10.
Okay.
Okay. If I have a down 3 and a miss, then I'm down 8 points out of the 10. I only have 2 on the target, so I get a penalty of 4 seconds for missing the 8 points, plus another 5-second penalty, equivalent to 10 points, for a failure to neutralize.
Okay, so basically 1 hit in the -1 or the -0 and you don't receive that penalty.
Correct.
If you have 2 hits here, or basically 2 hits anywhere on the target, you don't receive that penalty.
Correct.
Okay. So you really want to avoid those because that time adds up pretty quick.
Right.
Now, how do the targets work as far as shoot-throughs?
Shoot-throughs are legal in IDPA. They count, I guess is a better way to say that rather than legal, but they count on threat targets and non-threats equally. So if you have a non-threat target overlying a threat target and you shoot through the non-threat target, you get the penalty for that, but you get the points for wherever your bullet impacts on the threat target, and vice versa.
Okay, so if we've got a target right in front here,
Right.
and we hit on the non-threat in front,
Correct.
it actually passes through and it scores on the target behind it.
Exactly.
Or vice versa.
That's exactly correct.
So sometimes it might be beneficial to, if you've got 2 threat targets lined up, just shoot the one in front.
You can do that, but there's problems with engagement.
Well, the back target's engaged, but you end up with, you
Well,
haven't fired the rounds required.
Right, and then there's the unique penalty to IDPA, the failure to do right, which is a 20-second penalty added to your time just for trying to circumvent the stage like that. So
Okay.
You're risking a lot, and you don't know what the safety officer or the match director is going to do when you do that. So,
Right, so the best thing to do is just try to shoot every target clean.
Right.
Do it right.
But the advantage to it is if you do shoot targets like that and your shoot-through hits are better than your actual engagement hits, they're going to score.
Right, okay. Well, that makes
So
a lot
that
of
would be
sense.
the benefit.
Now, the difference between IPSC and IDPA scoring is how simplified the scoring system is in IDPA. It's really easy to understand where you're at in a match. In IPSC shooting,
absolutely.
it's a lot harder. I mean, you've got the factoring system,
Right.
which is your points on your target divided by your time.
Correct.
And you never really know where you're at because did somebody shoot it faster but they had less points than you? You don't know what's going on.
Right.
That's the nice thing about this.
With IDPA scoring, it ultimately is like golf. It's the lowest score wins. So the fastest time with the least points down seems to be the way to win a match that way.
Yeah, so don't drop any points. Now, in IDPA, to the IPSC shooters coming in to shoot it, to have a little understanding of how important it is, to not drop those points, you have stages in the match is equal to a 2-hit factor
Right.
in IPSC shooting,
Right.
which is a half point or a half second per point.
Right.
And that's pretty brutal. We only see that really in the rifle matches where there's very few shots with a lot of movement or they take a long time to do it. So accuracy is very important in this sport.
Yeah, it is. As we talked about, IDPA, even like at the national championships and a lot of the big matches, they will post the scores of the people who are the fewest points down. It's one of the little recognition things that they do in the sport. So accuracy is the predominant goal behind the engineering of the scoring system and the sport itself.
Okay. Well, now let's get another IPSC target out here, and we're going to actually show you the difference in aiming between the IPSC target and the IDPA target.
Perfect.
Now we've went and grabbed a IPSC target. Now you'll notice we've got these nice black lines on these. We've actually outlined the scoring zones on the targets to make it easier to see on camera and understand what we're doing here. Now this is your IPSC target. If you notice the A zone, which we shoot the A's in the USPSA, is significantly longer than the 0 zone in the body here.
Right.
Now that makes a big difference to people converting over to IDPA, because a lot of them will shoot the target in this area, and they'll be down quite a few points over here.
Right. You see a lot of that in USPSA shooters that move over because they're used to centering a target, and that puts them just outside the line on these.
Now we've taken an IPSC target and we've actually cut out the A zone so we could see the difference between the two. And you'll see that there's a significant area added underneath here where you'd be down points in
Right.
IDPA shooting, but it'd still score well in the IPSC shooting.
Right.
So what you've got to look for, and actually the center of the target is quite a bit higher for the 0 zone. So you want to be aiming up in this area right here,
Absolutely.
which is a great place to aim on IPSC targets also, because it'll
Right.
save you some points there.
Right.
The general thing that most people have problems with is they just take the center of the target of the body itself, and then they split that with their sights. When they do that, they're still okay most of the shots in the IPSC shooting,
Right.
but you're definitely down a ton of points in IDPA.
Right.
Okay, so that ends up hurting you every single time.
Now, the other advantage that an IDPA target has over a USPSA target is the scoring zone in the head. Whereas this is broken down into an A and a B zone on a USPSA target
Okay,
that score different points.
right.
If you go to the IDPA target, the whole head again is a down 0.
So any hit in the head is
Any
good.
hit in the head, as long as you're inside the perforation lines that we've outlined there.
Okay, well, that works out pretty well. Now, how do multiple hits on targets? There's a significant difference between the two sports right there. Because in IPSC shooting, we generally shoot 2 rounds per target on pretty much everything we
Right.
do.
IDPA is predominantly 2 rounds on each target, but you'll see, to break patterns, to keep people from getting the habit of just putting 2 rounds on everything, sometimes you'll see a target or a course of fire that says a minimum number of points on a target, or a target has to be neutralized. And where we talked about failure to neutralize, if I hit anything in here with 1 round, I've neutralized the target, so I can engage it once and move on.
Oh, okay, so you could hit basically this area
Right.
with 1 bullet and be done with that target on that kind of a stage.
Right. If the course design says that each target needs to be neutralized, then that's what you have to do. You have to have that 4 points. I've also seen a lot of match directors put 3 hits per target, 6 hits per target, things like that in, to throw the cadence of 2 hits on everything out.
Okay,
Just to break the pattern, make the shooter think a little bit more, that kind
Right.
of thing.
So one of the things you want to do when you're practicing for IDPA is to take and make sure you set up a bunch of targets and shoot them with different rounds, so you don't just get into that habit of double tapping targets and punching 2 rounds at everything.
Exactly, because otherwise you'll be off sequence when you get to a stage or a course of fire that's designed to either have more or less than the standard 2 rounds on it.
Sometimes in IDPA, the match director will take and put t-shirts on the targets to obscure the scoring zones.
Right.
Now, what you've got to figure out is, where do you need to put your sights on that target? And it's something to go and practice a lot, so that you've got a natural point of aim on a target, even if the 0 is obscured. Now on this target right here, the top of that 0 zone and the bottom of that 0 zone are right in this area, okay? So you'd want your sights in this spot right here. You'd want that front sight pinned up right in the middle,
Right.
okay?
Right.
Now, if you've got a target like this and there may be a barrel down here or some other type of cover,
Right.
another option is to go and aim at the head or the upper zero box, and then you don't have to worry about it. Now, it makes it a little tighter shot, but you know what you're going for.
With IDPA distances, typically you'll run into a lot of headshot options, because rarely do you get targets out beyond 15, 18 yards.
Okay. Well, you'll really only see
I
anything.
think the rule book maxes out at 25 yards.
Yeah, and that's
So-
primarily you see that in standards types
Right,
events.
standard exercises, and typically standards won't be covered with a t-shirt. This is more scenario-based things. I've seen it at a lot of state championships, at the nationals. Some club matches even run the t-shirts on there just to make people focus on visualizing where they want to hit that target.
Well, it's a really good idea to practice with shirts or with targets that you can barely see the scoring lines on, because if you also run into a target that's in the shade,
Right,
you won't be able to see that area you're supposed to aim at.
right,
You know, so you really need to have a knowledge of that outline of that target and what your sights need to look like.
right.
Now-
Or if the targets get out at distance.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. When they get out at distance, you can't pick it out
They're
either.
shooting at standards or something, 20 or 25 yards. Makes it a lot harder to see those perforations.
Well, nearly everybody I see always shoots right in this area.
Right, because
Too
there's
low.
just split in the target, and the IDPA scoring zone, as we've looked at over here, is higher than centered in the target,
Well, they split the body of the target
and
With-
raised it just a little bit.
without
It's-
the head.
Well, it's still a little high, even centered on the body.
Okay. Now, Kurt, tell us about the different divisions in IDPA.
IDPA shoots 4 separate divisions, or has 4 separate divisions for competitors to shoot in, and each one only competes against that particular gun type. So there's no high overall champion
Okay.
at an IDPA national championship. There is a champion for each division. The 4 are stock service pistol, which is probably the most popular,
Okay.
or second.
Well, that's the division you can shoot Glocks and...
Berettas, SIGs, Smith double actions, that kind of thing. It's a double action, single action division.
Your gun has to start double action.
Correct.
Right.
In that particular division it does, and it's caliber restricted. It's 9mm, 10mm, 40 caliber, 38 super. Any guns that fit into the mechanical aspects and the caliber shoot in stock service pistol.
Okay.
The next one would be the one you're the most familiar with, enhanced service pistol, which is guns that start out single action.
Okay.
Browning high powers, single stack 1911 style guns, high capacity 1911 style guns, as long as they're not in 45 ACP caliber.
Right. Now, you got to remember one thing, though. You can have a Glock in enhanced service pistol
Right.
if it's highly modified.
Right, if it's got a steel guide rod, or if it's got a magazine
Right.
well on it, things like that. Stock service pistol, where those guns compete, the modifications allowed to the firearms are very minimal.
Absolutely.
So
Now-
what they're trying to do is bring essentially a box stock gun to a match and be allowed to compete with it.
Now you got enhanced, which you can pretty much do everything, and then you got custom.
Custom defensive pistol is any firearm that fires 45 ACP caliber. That's pretty much where it is. It's predominantly 1911 single stack guns or high capacity 1911 style guns, but the Glock 21 can compete in that division. The SIG P220 competes in that division. The H&K guns can compete in that division. They don't have to, because those guns also could apply to stock service pistol or enhanced. But if it's a single action 45, it goes into custom defensive pistol.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
kind of the roots of practical shooting basis back on that. And then stock service revolver is any revolver, 38 caliber or larger, 4-inch barrel or smaller.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's got to be a 4-inch barrel. None of the 5-inch 45s are legal anymore.
Right. A year or 2 years ago, they made that 4-inch barrel maximum a rule in IDPA.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for your time, Kurt.
My pleasure, Matt.
Appreciate it. Now, the basic gear you're going to need for IDPA are eye protection, ear protection. That's number one. Even if you're on the range just spectating, you need to have those, because parts of bullets might come off of a piece of steel and bounce back. The ear protection I use are the Dillon electronic earmuffs. You can hear the range commands and the beeps, but they cut out the gunshots. They work pretty well. The next piece of gear you're going to need is a good solid holster. The holsters we use are from Comptac. They're a Kydex holster, and they're a nice paddle design, so you can actually take them and just clip them right onto your belt and lock them underneath. Then you need a set of mag pouches. You only get 2 mag pouches to work with. You get to take, and you want them so they won't drop the magazines out while you're running or moving, but they're still easy to take the mags out of when you're in the competition. The next thing on the list is a good sturdy belt. Now Kevin's got a leather belt on here, and you might notice that his is a little flimsy. Look at the difference between that and the Kydex belt that I'm wearing from Safariland. This thing is as tough as heck, you know, it's solid. Okay, now your vest is going to be one of your other pieces of equipment because we shoot a lot of the stages from concealment. Any stage you have that you don't get the gun off of a table or out of a position, or it's not a standard stage, you need to be concealed, at least in most states where they have the concealed weapons laws. Okay, the vest we use is from Royal Robbins. It's got a good solid panel in the front, so when you go to do a draw, it just rips right out of the way. See how it folds up right there? That's really important, especially even when you're going for a reload. You don't want that bunching up and sticking on top of your magazines or your pouches.
I see a lot of guys use shirts like maybe what I have on, but just covering their hips, and they'll go to get their gun or their mags, and the shirts will get all tied up in their guns and their mags, and it's just not a very safe thing.
Right, when you're working with your shirt, see how his is pouched out right there? Keep it right before you shoot the stage, tuck it in so it's nice and tight. The other thing to do is get a shirt. This is pretty slick. You don't want a knit kind of shirt. Like this has a special panel on the side that's really slick, so I don't have a tendency to accidentally catch or grab the shirt. And you know, it really makes for a much longer draw when you do that. The gun and your magazines have to actually fit inside of the IDPA box. This is the legal box for the sport. It actually came from IDPA headquarters. And so any gun you have with a magazine has to go in there. Now we've got the action training rounds from ST Action Pro. They're actually a plastic insert dummy round. So we could take and load the gun, place it inside the box, and you can see you've got to close the lid. The way they'll test that sometimes is they'll actually start you on a stage with the gun loaded in a box, and you'll have to draw the gun out of it. Now these little dummy trainers are a great way to practice, and you know you've got good fake ammo in the guns. Have you seen those before?
Yes, I have.
They're, you can load the gun, you can do reloads and everything else. Another good device for doing the safety stuff, if you've got to transport your gun or you want to lock it up, is using a new gun lock from Omega Gun Lock. Now, this is just a device that you load into the chamber like your normal ammo, and then you run this down the barrel and you tighten it up. So we're going to take an SV here, which actually isn't legal for the sport because it's got a hybrid on it. And we're going to have Matt Kartosian talk about some illegal modifications on the guns here in a bit. You just take and drop it into the gun, close the slide up. Now you can go hammer down if you want at this point because you've got an inert round in the gun, and just take and lock it up. Now, keep this in a separate location from your gun, and you'll see it's nice and safe. If you've got an external hammer, you can actually dry fire with that round in the gun by just cocking the hammer. It works out pretty well. So we'll just set that over here. Now the clothing for IDPA that I wear, and most of the people out there wear, is the gear from Royal Robbins, the 511 Tactical Series. Now these pants are great. They give you a lot of movement. They don't bind up and they don't rip out. They've got good pockets, good slash pockets, so that you can actually go and stick the magazines in them when you're doing a load. So if you go back for a tactical or reload with retention, you can put them in here, or take the side pouch on the leg and put it in there. That works out pretty well. Bring yourself a hat to all the ranges. As you can see, the sun's pretty harsh out here today. Without a hat on, it's going to be really hard to shoot later in the afternoon. Your choice of footwear for the sport is pretty important. You want to be safe out there in the first place. You don't want to be tripping and stumbling around. So we're going to show you some boots from Original SWAT, which these work really good on concrete or solid surfaces. That's a good rubber sole. A little bit of a rounded heel helps you shoot on the move, so you can roll your feet in. And then the other boots have a more aggressive tread pattern, and you can see the big spikes on those. That works really well on gravel and grass and stuff like that.
We shoot in a lot of grass in Indiana at our ranges, and it gets muddy, and these work just great. Keeps you from slipping and falling. And
they also help keep your feet dry.
Absolutely.
All right, now knee pads are not illegal. You can wear them underneath your pants, but you can't wear them with shorts. Now, one of the good things with these pants I've seen is some people take soft knee pads and they actually sew them into the knees. That'll really help protect you when you go down on the low positions, because all cover positions that are low cover, you actually have to go down on a knee.
Right.
You have to have at least one knee on the ground. Now we're going to have Matt Kartosian of CustomGlock.com discuss some of the equipment that's not approved of in IDPA. You might not even know what's not allowed to be used in the sport. Now we're here with Matt Kartosian of CustomGlock.com, and we've disabled all the firearms. Anytime we're on camera and we've got to point them up range or whatever, we take and we use the what we call shot shell firing pins. They're actually shortened up, so we don't have to worry about any safety issues with our crew. Now Matt's going to tell us what are some of the illegal things that people think are okay to do, but they're actually not.
Well, one of the main things people do is a very popular product that is sold out there is the various plastic plugs that are sold for the Glock that fit in the back straps. Now these, according to the rule book, would be an external modification, so they're not legal. A lot of people have them and use them in their carry guns or their regular range guns, but technically they're not legal for the IDPA sport in the stock service pistol division.
Now those plug in right here?
They go right here in the back strap, and they fit in there. It's a little plastic plug that covers that up. It's designed to keep some dirt out. Now in enhanced division, those would be okay. Another version of that is the Seattle Slug, which is a metal version that actually extends outward a little bit, downward, and acts as a miniature magwell. But again, these are only legal for the enhanced or custom division. They're not legal in the SSP stock service pistol division. Another very common modification a lot of people have that is not allowed in the stock service pistol is the metal guide rod. In this case, this one is steel. Tungsten is not allowed at all in any of the divisions, but the steel ones are not allowed in stock. And a lot of people change them out because they think they're more reliable than the plastic ones. But you're not allowed to use the steel. Now what you can do is, like in this gun, you are allowed to change the weight of your spring, but not the guide rod. So what you can do is use the factory plastic guide rod and still change your spring weight and stay legal for stock service pistol.
Yeah, reducing the weight of the spring on the guns really actually helps the recoil. It reduces the torque on your wrist and everything. It helps the flip out. So it's something to really think about.
As the shooter, you actually do less work because there's less force to overcome.
Right. Most people think going to a heavy spring's a good thing.
Well, but actually it forces you to do more work and increases the likelihood of your gun having a jam. Now what we found, particularly with younger and smaller shooters, small ladies or kids that are shooting, is that some of these guns have way too much spring from the factory. And what happens, they have what's called a limp wrist jam. They don't have quite enough strength in their wrist to hold the gun steady so the gun locks up. But while changing to a lighter spring, some of our smaller shooters can have a reliable firearm.
Okay. Now I've noticed like this gun here has some grip modifications on it.
Yes, the most obvious thing is the obnoxiously bright grip tape. That's just my personality, but the skateboard tape adds a nice grip to it so you have a good rough surface to hold on to.
Now grip tape's legal in every division.
Yes, it is. Skateboard style tape, which is what this is, or you could glue on sandpaper, or the various brands and styles of slip-on rubber socks and such. Those are all legal for all divisions. Now some of the things that this has, or I'll actually use this one to demonstrate, is what we call high gripping, first of all, where the hump here on the bottom of the trigger guard has been cut and rounded off and flattened up so you get higher up on the gun. But that again is illegal for stock service pistol division, but for enhanced and custom, that is okay, along with the serrations, which is a similar style modification. Now for stock, you can't use the serrations, but you can use, again, sandpaper or skateboard tape to get your texture there.
Right, but you can't do any cuts or anything on the frame at all.
You are not
stock.
allowed to do any sort of external frame modifications.
Okay. Now, what sight changes are you allowed in stock?
Well, you're allowed to use a notch and post style sight. So you have a standard fixed sight. This happens to be a race cut Heine, which is a standard Heine straight 8 slant pro that's been cut a little bit. This makes a good combination carry sight and competition sight. It has the tritium night sights, which are great for a home defense gun or a carry gun, but it's still a good, fast, effective sight picture for shooting competition like IDPA. Now, another option is the Bomar. This is a fully click adjustable, incredibly accurate, very well made sight. Now this one happens to be a drop-in version. As you see, it hangs over the slide a little bit. Looks a little funny, but it works.
You didn't have to actually make any cuts to put this
No,
on.
there's no modifications. This is a slide in with 2 set screws. It's a very simple, clean installation.
But you did have to change the front sight, didn't you?
Yes, these usually come as a set, and it comes with a much taller front sight, as this is quite a bit higher up than the factory sight's going to be, so you need a taller front sight to match the rear. And that's true with really any aftermarket sight. Anytime you change sights, you need the front and rear to match to be the correct height.
Okay, now the drop-in Bomars are legal in stock.
Yes, they're legal everywhere. It's a plain notch and post sight. It's very, as I said, there's no modifications done. You slide them in.
Okay.
Now, what people may not know is also legal in stock is a melted Bomar, as this one is, where it's actually machined into the slide. As I said, they don't really care how you get to that as long as you have a plain notch and post sight.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter that you machine the slide because the sights are plain notch and post, fully legal, and this provides a nice, clean, crisp, fast sight picture.
Okay. Now on the, I noticed like this gun here has an extended magazine catch.
Yes, you are allowed to use things like the factory extended magazine catch, not aftermarket. There are some aftermarket ones that have an extra button that screws in there made of aluminum or something. Those are not legal for any of the divisions. That's an oversized extended magazine button. But the factory longer button is allowed, as is the case with the extended slide stop lever. This one's a little bit extended. These are from the factory.
From the factory, right.
Yeah, the rule was that if it was a factory option, you're allowed to use it. Now the 34 and the 35, the long slide Glocks, come with them from the factory.
Okay.
That's the way they're shipped. But all the other guns have had them available at one time or another, so they are allowed to be used.
Okay. Now, are aftermarket barrels allowed?
Yes, they are. That's considered accuracy work, and replacement of the barrel is specifically allowed. This one happens to be a Barstow. It's been fitted to this gun. The cam's oversized, and you cut it to fit the gun for a much more accurate shooting pistol.
Okay. And now you can also do trigger work in stock class, I believe, right?
Trigger work is fully allowed. Again, that's considered accuracy and action work. So you are fully allowed to rework the trigger. There's no minimum pull weight as long as safety is maintained. This trigger has all the safeties fully working and functional, yet the trigger's down at about 2.25 pounds in this particular gun. One other thing specifically allowed is coatings on your slide or your gun. This one, after doing the machine work, we decided to recoat it so you don't have bare metal to protect it from the corrosion.
Right.
So we put on a new coating. This one happens to be an OD green.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. Now, you can't have in stock class like some people have the trigger stops and stuff like that.
Well, over travel stops is a trigger modification. Now, if it's internal, it is allowed. This particular gun has an internal adjustable over travel stop, so it's not external. That is allowed. Now, some Glocks and some companies will sell an external trigger stop, which has a little set screw screwed into this trigger, into the face of the trigger right there in the plastic.
Okay.
And stops against the frame. Technically, that is an external modification, and so disallowed because there's a very short list of permitted external modifications.
Okay. Now, the difference between stock and enhanced, you can pretty much do whatever you want to the gun as long as it fits in the box and doesn't have any ports, right?
Yes, you can do quite a bit more with your enhanced gun. You're allowed to do mag wells, you can high grip, you can serrate or checker front straps and whatnot. Basically, if it fits in the box and it meets the maximum weight, stays under the weight of the gun because each division has its own max weight, you're okay. Now, one thing people also don't always remember, Glock sells many factory ported guns. This one happens to be the ported gun.
Okay, so that's what the slots in the slide right there.
Yeah, so there's the cuts in the slide, and then if we open the barrel, you can see there's little holes in the barrel to vent the gas and keep the gun flat. Now that is not allowed in any IDPA division, but if you purchase another barrel without the ports, whether it be from Glock or one of the other aftermarket manufacturers, it is legal as long as you have a solid barrel in there. So those of you that have a ported gun that want to shoot the sport can change the barrel out and be fully legal.
Great. Great. Well, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Now we're going to give you a few tips and pointers on your draws. The vest, when you're drawing from concealed, one of the tricks to getting that thing out of the way, some people just take and use their finger and come in right here and pull it out of the way. That's not too consistent. So what I want you to actually do is grab that vest, hook it with your hand, and rip it out of the way. So all we're going to have Kevin do now is do that 5-10 times to just get smooth and used to it. Now, every time he does that though, I want him moving his left hand to match that body motion because we don't want one of these things. We're going to try to keep the head nice and solid. There you go. Now that's step one of a 3-point system we do, which is pretty simple as far as the system goes. Step one's here. Go ahead. Where's your left hand? Get moved up there. Step two is the gun comes into this position right here. Okay. Now the difference between a retention draw and a competition draw is with a retention draw, if you're actually doing it for gunfighting, keep those arms pinned against your chest. It's a very strong position to fight from. So this is where you'd train to. For competition, just let the hands kind of float up here. Meet the hands where you want to clap. Step 3, bring the gun up, drive it out to the target. Okay, now you can do this in reverse also and just get the movements practiced and fluid all the way through. So we're going to just basically say steps 1, 2, 3 and back and forth, okay?
Okay.
1. Now, do it like you mean it. When you get to that draw, rip that. I want to see that vest fly up out of the way. 1, 2. Now, in this position 2, we'd actually want a full grip. He actually missed his left hand a little bit. It was down a bit. So, 3. Drive it straight to that target. 2. 3. 2. 3. 2. 1. And hands at sides. You might have noticed his gun was bouncing just a little bit when he went into position 3. If you go back to tapes volumes 1 to 4, there's a bunch more stuff on the draw that covers how to bring that to a stop nice and easy, like you're pressing your finger on a doorbell button. Okay? Now, the other things that are important about the draw is practicing them to different positions. Because obviously in IDPA, you don't just stand there and shoot the whole time.
Right.
You might have to go kneeling, you might have to go prone or whatever else. So we're going to practice just a kneeling draw.
Okay.
Okay, so watch out for your knees. Make sure there's nothing underneath you. Always take a look at the ground before you go kneeling if you don't have any knee pad on, and make sure there isn't going to be a nice rock or a piece of brass you're going to catch right underneath there. So, where would be position 1? And you're going to set your body, okay?
Right.
And then 2, the gun's going to come out. 3, extend. All right? So then just holster as you're coming back up. Nice and safe. Good. So just do a couple of those. Come back up. He's added something really important there right at the end, which a lot of guys don't do, is follow through. You'll see a lot of people doing draws, they'll go when they're practicing them. You don't actually learn anything if you're just whipping the gun out and back. You've got to drive the gun out, leave it up there for a few seconds and practice and training. All right, go ahead.
There's one for the outtakes, huh?
No, that's part of the draw. You got to get used to getting that vest out of the way. Hands up. Do it one more time here. I want to see something. Okay. Now, if you notice, he's not moving his left foot. That's a good thing. You want to keep that weight on that left foot if you're right-handed, and basically use that leg to control the movement downwards and ease that knee onto the ground. So it's just going to be a, and notice how the torso's still, the shoulders are in front of the hips, everything's leaned a little forward, and I'm basically shooting from the exact same position as I would be standing right there. Go ahead. And holster. Now we're going to cover the 3 types of reloads in IDPA. You've got your emergency reload, your reload with retention, and your tactical reload. So let's do an emergency reload. That is where the slide is locked back. Go ahead and take your gun out. Lock the slide back. Okay. And you'd normally have an empty magazine in the gun. You've shot dry on it. So go ahead and do a emergency load. You slam the mag in, hit the button, and you'd fire another shot. Okay, go ahead and take that magazine out. Okay, gun is clear. Hammer down. Now, reloads with retention and tactical reloads are one of the most controversial items of the sport as far as defensive usage and everything else. We're just going to cover them for the actual sport itself.
Okay.
Okay? A reload with retention happens with the gun out on the target, or you're coming around a wall or something like that. You've got a chunk of space to reload in, or it's some downtime in the gunfight, and you take the magazine out, put it in your pouch, put it in your pocket, put it in your belt, whatever, put another magazine in the gun. So go ahead and place a magazine into the gun. Okay, so you're up. Okay, take that magazine out, catch the magazine, put it in your pocket, bring the other magazine up, back out. Now go ahead and take that magazine out, put it in your pocket. There you go. Put that one back in your other pouch and holster up. A tactical reload is where the gun is up on target. You bring the other magazine up, you swap in your hands, you change mags at the gun. Basically, the idea is as little downtime as possible. And then you take and continue shooting. So we're gonna try one of those. Now what I want you to do is take that magazine out of your pouch like normal, finger along the front, little bend in it. If you have that finger straight on the magazine, it's not a really good idea when it hits that mag well because it'll flex and bend or break that finger. So we want a little bend in it right there, okay? So take that magazine out, or gun out, put a magazine in the gun, there you go. Gun up on target. Okay, go back to your second magazine, bring it out, swap it at the gun, and put it back in a pocket. Okay, go ahead, take that mag out and holster. Now, it's my personal suggestion, anytime you're doing a tactical or a reload with retention, to not put your magazines back in their pouches. When you put them back in your pouches, they're partially loaded with rounds, and you don't want to get that confused in a long stage. So put it back in a pocket or, you know, wherever you've got it, put it someplace else than the actual mag pouch.
Okay.
It's just a good thing for real life, too. All right, you want to do one under the clock?
Sure.
Let's do a emergency reload. Now there's no provision in IDPA for a speed reload from the IPSC shooting, which is the slides down on a round, even if the magazine's completely empty, to just drop the mag to the ground. If the slide is forward on your gun, you have to do an actual reload, a tactical or reload with retention. You can't do a speed reload, okay?
Okay.
So go ahead and load your gun with one round in it. Gun up on target. At the sound of the tone, fire the shot and do your reload. Nice. Now his emergency reload was a 2.69. Okay, reload with retention, you're taking the mag out of the gun, stuffing it in your pocket, putting the other mag in. So gun up. Shooter ready. Stand by. Nice. Time was a 3:31. Go ahead and holster. Now we'll do a tactical reload.
Okay.
That's where your gun's up on the target. Bring the mag up, swap the mags at the gun, put it back in the pocket.
Okay.
Shooter ready? Stand by. Okay, now that was a 4:59. You can see each type of reload gets a little progressively slower. Let me see that. Gun clear, slide forward, hammer down, holster. Every reload gets a little bit slower, so the option is to try to do the fastest reloads whenever you can for the sport. As you can see, an emergency reload is the fastest of the three types of reload available in IDPA. It goes from emergency reload to a reload with retention to a tactical reload. So anytime you have the opportunity to, if you're going to play the game, do the emergency reload first. Now we're going to induce some pistol malfunctions and show you the tap rack bang method of clearing them. Give me a magazine. I'm going to take a couple of rounds out here and put in one of those SD Action Pro training rounds. Okay. Now go ahead and load and make ready. Now if his gun stovepipes or has any type of malfunction, the major way of clearing it is to slam the magazine, because the number one malfunction is not getting that magazine seated.
Okay.
Grab the top of the back of the slide, fingers out of the trigger guard, nice and straight, flying like a flag. Rip it to the rear and let go of it. Get back on target.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, gun up. Shoot until you have a malfunction. Excellent. Now the only difference I would do, hand me the gun, is when I did the tap rack bang, I want to employ gross motor skills. Instead of coming over the top of the gun like this, I'm going to want to hit it, come to the rear, rack it like that, and punch it back on target. And the reason why is you get the whole hand on there. Now you don't want to get over the ejection port in case there's a failure with the gun and the firing, or the ejector hits the primer or any
Right.
other problems like that and something goes off. If you're here, everything's safe and it'll blow away from you.
Okay.
40s are well known for having detonations off of the
Right.
ejector. All right, I'm gonna hand it back to you. Go ahead and unload. Show me clear. Gun clear, slide forward, hammer down, holster. There is one other type of major malfunction that you can have. That's a squib load. Your gun's gonna sound like it has a noise. It's obviously not a bang, and the bullet probably didn't leave the barrel. It can sound almost identical if you have a reversed primer. If you,
Okay.
you know, it'll get a little noise, but it doesn't do anything. If that happens, just stop, tell the SO, and get the gun cleared properly, because you're going to have to drive that bullet out of the barrel. One of the other most important parts of the sport is understanding the difference between tactical priority and tactical sequence. Tactical priority is basically when you have 3 targets here. The front target and the middle targets are at different distances. They're more than a couple of yards apart.
Okay.
That's the basic difference right there. So you have to engage the nearest threat first. So we're going to have you engage these 3 targets in tactical priority.
Okay.
Okay, so load and make ready. Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay. Unload and show clear. Gun clear. Slide forward. Hammer down. Holster. Remember, can't be dropping points out there. Now we're going to take and move the targets and engage them in tactical sequence.
Okay.
Okay? Now, tactical sequence is when all the targets are within 2 yards and you have to engage each of them with 1 round each before re-engaging the additional targets with the rounds required.
Okay.
So if it's 2 rounds required per target, you go 1, 1, 2, 1, 1. If it's 3 rounds required per target, the match director's messing with you a little bit, it would be 1, 1, 3, 2, 2.
Okay.
Okay? So it gets a little confusing out there. Make sure that that it's specified, and that's actually what you have to do. The best thing to do with an SO is find out what you really need to do on the stage according to them, and then shoot it their way. And just do it a little faster and more accurately than everybody else.
Okay.
So go ahead and let's just do a engagement and tactical sequence here. Load and make ready. This is going to be 2 rounds each. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1.
Okay.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Go ahead and holster. Go ahead and holster. I want to describe something, then we're going to have you do it again. Now, just for sake of discussion, that time was a 365. Your time before, when you went 2 rounds on each target, was in the 2s.
Okay.
But you didn't drop any points this time. So you dropped a second before, and this time you dropped 0. So your times worked out to be almost the same.
Can't drop those points.
Can't drop those points. It's really important. So let's do it again. Now we're going to go 1, 1, 3, 2, 2. Why don't you reload your gun? I wonder if that's the one I put the dummy rounds into.
That's not loaded.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, unload and show clear. Gun clear, slide forward, hammer down, holster. Now remember, tactical sequence has to be specified, but we're going to try to engage all the targets in tactical priority. Tactical priority is going to be the nearest target first, or it's going to be the one that shows up first if you're aiming or going around a wall or a barricade or around a vehicle. Now I'm going to engage these targets in tactical priority. That means I'm going to have to shoot the target that shows up first in my view. Now, when I engage that target, or any target I'm engaging, I have to have 100% of my hips and feet behind cover and 50% of my torso. Now, a lot of people will get over here and they'll shoot these just like that. Well, the problem is I'm exposed to all three targets. That'll earn you a penalty really quick. So what you want to do is get into a position where your foot is as close to being outside of cover as possible, but you're not exposed, and it'll still give you the rotation necessary to shoot all three targets. Now, if you crowd that cover, the closer you get, the harder it is to get on those targets. If you stand back just a little bit, you can do a better rotation and stay in a more natural stance.
Okay, Matt, load and make ready. Okay, shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, may I unload and show clear? Clear. Holster.
When you have low cover positions, which means you have to shoot on a knee, that is an IDPA regulation. You can't shoot from an IPSC squat or a gamer's squat as they call it. Anytime you have a car or a vehicle or a low barricade like this, and they specify that you have to shoot around the bottom area, you have to go to a knee. Now, here's the biggest tip of that. When you're going around the right side of the barricade, go to your right knee. When you're going around the left side of a barricade, go to your left knee. And the reason why is it gives you more angle to come out with your body with less exposure. And remember, your body has to be in behind that cover. All right, so let's load me up.
Okay, load and make ready. Okay, shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, unload and show.
Unload and show clear.
Clear. Holster.
That's the fastest way to get around that barricade. Okay, what you really want to look for is your knee position. If you can take a look at the stage and get a good guess of where you have to go, it really helps. Because when you're coming into this position here, you know, you're going to be able to see and get the idea of the line of the targets. Come in. You don't want to go over like this. Now I'm exposed with that leg. You get nailed with a procedural. So you want to come in just a little short of that. Look where you got to put your knee down. Have your gun up, drive it out and around. Now you can also do it a little further back if you don't want to crowd that cover. It's just a little more awkward. The further away you get on this kind of a position, a little less swing you get. So you don't get that transitional movement to that far target. That covers the high and low cover shooting positions and gives you a good idea about tactical priority and tactical sequence. Now we're going to help you out with your movement as far as stages go, shooting on the move and working through those positions. Now there's 4 basic movements that you really need to practice when working on IDPA, and we're going to add a 5th to make it a little more complicated and stretch out the boundaries a little bit. The first one is coming away from a target. You have to retreat from the target and shoot it on the move. Then you've got obviously aggressing the target or going towards it because you don't know what's happening behind you or whatever's happening with the stage, just part of the stage design. Right. And you got lateral movement, left and right and left. So let's start out with retreating from the target. So come up pretty close to it here. Load and make ready. Some of the stages, they actually have you start touching the target frame. That's what we're going to do with Kevin. Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay. Go ahead and reload. And holster. Now take a couple more steps back. Turn around. There you go. Now we're going to do a bell drill going towards the target.
Okay.
All right. A bell drill, 6 rounds fired, all in the 0 zone. Just a nice round count, because you can do it with a revolver or whatever division you're in. Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, safety on. Let me give you another magazine. Holster. Let's talk about what he just did there for a second. When you were backing up, obviously you want to go a little slower going backwards, don't you?
Stay closer to the target.
Yeah, the closer you are to the target, the faster you can shoot it. When you're going forward, you want to cut that distance so you take 1 or 2 big steps, and then you kind of baby step into the target because you don't want to overrun it. Okay? So now let's go over here, and we're going to do some lateral movement. We're going to come and just have you draw, and we're going to have you shoot the middle target 6 times as you go across the bay.
Okay.
All right? Now, always be mindful of your muzzle direction. Keep it aimed at the target or center of the berm, because you don't want to be pointing it at anybody else accidentally. Shooter ready. Stand by. All right, good. Give me another magazine. Holster. Let's step over here. That's good. Let's do this way now. Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, holster up. Turn around. One of the things he did, which is a pretty common mistake among shooters, is he got his feet crossed over. What happened with that?
Just happens.
It does. And it's something you've got to watch out for. You don't want your feet going across each other like this. If they do, that muzzle of that gun is going to bounce back and forth. So we want a nice smooth movement, heel to toe, rolling it through all the way. The way to do that is you keep the outside foot, whichever the outside foot is. If you're going to the left, it'll be your left. Going to the right, it'll be your right. In the direction of the movement, keep your inside foot either in the direction of movement or aim towards the target if your back starts getting tight.
Okay.
Okay? And now always roll heel to toe. Heel to toe. You want to maintain constant motion and smooth all the way through with your feet. If you're going backwards, it's toe to heel. What we don't want to ever see is that slapping down. Because when it slaps down, what does your muzzle do?
Comes down with it.
Yep, absolutely. And we've got one more little drill here. It's another pretty good drill to do. You take a big, just basically imagine a big circle, and you can use all the mags on you, and make sure you got a couple of mags back there. They loaded up. There you go. We're going to move back here a little bit, and just imagine an imaginary circle here. And the goal on this, I'm going to walk at one time just to show you.
Okay.
The goal on this is to keep the gun up and moving in the center of that target the whole time.
Okay.
Now, you shoot until you're empty. Do a safe reload. Make sure you maintain a safe muzzle direction.
Okay.
All right, step a little forward for me. Go ahead, load and make ready.
Still hot here.
Good, yeah, you're right, you're still hot. So, when your gun goes empty, do a load.
Okay.
All right? Just go ahead. And now I'm going to help him out the first time. You might want to have a buddy make sure that you don't get offline or you're not going to trip over anything when you're actually doing this in practice and training. Go ahead. Back that slide. Clear the jam. Tap, rack, bang. Come on. Clear it out. Come on. Keep moving. Keep moving. You got to keep moving. Get a new mag in there. And back. All right, that's good enough. Go ahead and step forward and unload and show clear for me. Hammer down, holster. We messed with you a little bit there, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
It's another way to force your buddy to have some malfunctions during training to get him to try to deal with that. Once you're in a stage, there's a lot of extra stress, and you got to learn how to work through that. It's really important to try to figure out how to do that and manage those things when you're still doing other things. It's like walking and chewing gum while rubbing your head in your stomach. It starts getting really complicated really quick.
Okay.
All right, well, let's move on to the IDPA classifier and give you some tips that'll help you out with that. All right, this is stage 1 of the classifier. What do I have to do?
Stage 1, string 1 is you start here at position 1, you draw and fire 2 shots to the body and 1 to the head. And you repeat that for each of the other targets for string 2 and 3.
Okay, now the critical part of these strings is you've got to hit those headshots. If you miss those, that's 2.5 seconds a shot. So I mean, even if it takes an extra second to hit them, you've got to nail them.
Okay, load and make ready. Shooter ready. Stand by. 174. Shooter ready. Stand by. 153. Shooter ready. Stand by. 148. Let's load up for the next string.
Okay.
Okay, string 4 is starting here again at position 1. Draw and fire 2 shots to each head of T1 through T3.
Okay.
Shooter ready. Stand by. 308. Okay, Matt, now we're going to string 5, stage 1. That's starting here again at position 1. You're going to start weak hand only, pointed downrange at a 45-degree angle. Your safety may be off, but your finger must be out of the trigger guard. You're going to fire 1 shot at each of the 3 targets, weak hand only.
Okay. Now, weak hand, a good tip for you is always come into your strength. This is the area that you can see best with your eyes. It's also the strongest. If you come in strong hand, come right to left, weak hand, left to right.
Okay. Load and make ready. Shooter ready. Stand by. 209.
Okay.
Okay, for string 6, we're again going to start here at position 1.
Okay.
We're going to load 1 mag with a maximum of 3 rounds.
Okay.
You have 1 still in your chamber, so you need to get 2 rounds in.
Okay.
Start with your back to the targets. Turn and fire 1 shot each to T1 through T3. Reload from slide lock and fire 1 shot at each T1 through T3.
Okay. I'm going to reload my gun. Now, we discussed that turning draw earlier, so we're going to try to do it nice and smooth. This is slide lock reload, so let's do a good one.
Shooter ready. Stand by. 521. Okay, load for string 6, excuse me, string 7.
Okay.
Again, we're going to start here at position 1. We're going to draw and fire 2 shots at each of the targets, strong hand only.
Strong hand only.
So shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, that's 336. Unload and show clear. Slide down. And holster.
Well, let's go score them up. I think I'm like 4 points down. All right, we're 2 down on target 1. 1 down on target 2. And clean on target 3. So we're 3 points down. It's 1.5 seconds added onto that time. Now we are on stage 2 of the classifier.
Okay, Matt, stage 2, string 1 is you start at position 2, which is 10 yards away from the target.
Okay.
You draw and advance toward the targets, fire 2 shots at each T1 through T3 while moving forward. All shots must be fired while moving. There's a forward fault line 5 yards ahead of us.
Okay, now remember, when we're doing the movement, roll those heels, be as nice and smooth as you can. Get a good launch on your first initial draw shot here. Now look.
Hey, load and make ready. Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, you may load from the next string. It's 277. String 2, we're going to start here at position 3. We're going to draw and retreat from the targets, fire 2 shots at each of T1 through T3 while retreating. All shots again must be fired on the move.
Okay, now on this string, move back as slow as you can.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, let's load for your next string.
All right, what do we have now?
Okay, now we're at stage 2, string 3. Again, we start here at position 2 at the 10-yard line.
Okay.
We load to a maximum of 6 rounds.
Let me center up on this guy here.
And we start with our back to the target. Then we fire 2 shots to each T1 and T3. Reload from slide lock. Fire 2 shots again at each target.
Okay, now remember your turn. Wait up that off foot. Do like a military turn. Snap your head to that target.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, let's load for the next string. That was 670. String 4, we're going to start here again at position 2. Draw and fire 2 shots at each T1 through T3, strong hand only.
Strong hand, I'm gonna go right to left.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Okay, let's unload and show clear. Okay. Clear. Okay, man, now we're at stage 3. String 1 of stage 3 is you start at position 4, which is here behind the barricade. You draw and fire 2 shots to each T1 through T3 from either side of the barricade to a tactical load or a magazine change with retention. Fire 2 shots again at each of the targets
Okay,
from the opposite side of the barricade.
this is what pretty much everybody calls the classifier. This is the hardest part of the entire classification system right here. Everybody misses the shots at 20 yards. So you really got to bear down on the trigger control, focus, see those sights lift, and call good shots. What I'm going to do here is shoot 6 around the left. I'm going to do a reload with retention and go to the right because that's a little faster than a tactical reload.
Okay. Load and make ready. Shooter ready. Stand by. Next string was 838. Okay, Matt, we're now at stage 3, string 2. We again start at position 4. Draw and fire 2 shots to each of T1 through T3 from either side of the barricade. do a tactical load or a magazine change with retention, and advance to position 5, which is the barrel up here. Fire 2 shots at again at each of T1 through T3 from either side of the barrel.
Okay. Now, on this stage, I'm going to actually do a tactical load. So I'm going to shoot 6, change the mags at the gun, stick the other mag in on the run on the way to the barrel. Now, since I'm right-handed, I'm going to lean around the right, shoot them on the right, outside to inside, because that's the way they appear, go up to the barrel, do the exact same thing.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Slow for the next ring. That was 10:32. Okay, now we're almost done. We're at string 3 of stage 3. We start at position 5, which is here by the barrel. We draw, kneel, and fire 2 shots each T1 through T3 from around either side of the barrel.
Okay, we got to apply the quarter on this one again too, so we're going to start on the outside target.
Shooter ready. Stand by. And let them show clear. Time was 3:02. That clear. Right down. And holster.
Well, we're finally done with the classifier, and pretty much at the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. We got to go score a few more points, figure out how many we were down. Let's go take a look. Okay. We're down 3 points on target 1, 2 points on target 2, and 4 points on target 3. So we didn't drop too many points on it. So that, we'll total that up in the editing, and we'll find out how we ended up on the classifier.
Nice shooting, man.
Hey, Kevin, thank you for coming out.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy it again.
Well, we'll probably see you on the next video.
All right.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Now we're going to have Kurt Von Rice out here do a stage. We're going to critique the stage, then I'll shoot it, and we'll be able to compare them on tape. It should look pretty neat. Go ahead, load, make ready, Kurt. They're finished and load and show clear. Time 9:58. All right, so when you shot that time, you took some big steps back before you started shooting.
All right.
Get the draw done, and then start moving as you're firing the gun.
Okay,
Use
so
it-
you stay closer to the target,
Yeah,
too.
use it to your advantage.
Okay.
Okay? We'll run it one more time now. Okay, load, make ready. Okay, the time was a 9:23. Unload and show clear. Gun clear, slide forward, holstered. All right, that wasn't that bad at all. You came off of these 3 targets, and you nailed your position down here pretty good. I personally would have came off of that one and hopefully finished shooting that one about here, and just dropped to a knee to shoot that one.
Okay.
on that right there, because I don't have that big transition over to the other far target then.
Okay.
Okay, one of the other things, when you're coming back like this, if you could just clear that cover and give yourself just a little bit more space,
Okay.
because you were really tight to the cover. When you went to do your load, it took a little bit extra time, didn't it?
Well, my mag's stuck.
Oh, your mag stuck? Okay. But if you're butted into barrels like that,
Right.
and you pull that, you're shooting over the top, that's great. You know, the guy hasn't specified you had to shoot around the side.
Right.
But if you're shooting over the top, when you pull that gun back, you're all bunched in there. So if you can just get back to a position of, you know, even right here, or whatever, so you're still maintaining the cover, but when you go to do that load, you get lots of room.
I just try not to overshoot the barrel.
Right. No, that's good job. Good job. Let's see what I do it in. You're at a 923. What was my time?
596.
596. So I picked up how much time?
3 seconds.
3.5 seconds, or well, 3.3 seconds. And that makes, well, I mean, that's just one stage.
Right.
And you do it over 30 stages or 15 stages, whatever, it adds up real quick. So you got to figure that out. I think I picked up a lot of time on you on the target transitions,
Right.
and then the reload.
Right.
Toasted you on the reload.
Right.
Let's have you do it one more time. Now, we're going to take a look at a couple of little things. My draw on that was a 118, and I ran two 16 splits on the actual first three shots. A 31 transition, a 17, a 17, 102 to the first shot on the paper behind the barrel, 30, 28, 16, 22, a 182 on the load to the last shot. So we're going to compare that to yours and see if we can find those chunks of time. Now you cut a half second off the time that time. Go ahead, stand up and unload your shoulder. Stand clear, slide forward, holster. So you're at an 870. Now your load hurt you. You're at a 259. So that was a 182 on the load, so that's a big difference right there. It's almost 3/4 of a second.
Yeah.
And your draw is killing you. I know you look like you fumbled with this
I did.
a little bit. Get something that has some structure to it so you can get it out of the way. Because you're at a 194, I'm at a 118.
Okay.
You know, and I should actually be hitting a 1 flat in that draw, but that's 7/10 of a second right there.
Okay.
So just your draw and your reload cost you a 1.5 seconds.
Right.
That's half of that time. The other part's the transitional time.
Right.
Let's see what your movement was. You were a 131 to here, so we were almost the same. I was a 1, so there's another 3/10. So the rest of it was purely target splits.
Right.
But if you just cleaned up your draw on your loads, you'd be a 1.5 seconds closer.
Okay.
Okay? I want to have me run it one more time here.
You're through. Unload and show clear. All right. Slide. Holster.
What was my time on that one?
577.
So 577. So actually, I think I speeded up just a little bit, didn't I?
About 2/10.
Yeah. I think I picked that up. Let's take a look at that clock. 179, so the load was a little faster. 108 on the draw.
Right.
That was the 2/10 right there. Just those two little spots. And 95 to that position. So I sped up on that just a little bit too. You want to run it one more time and see if we can speed you up?
Yeah, let's try it.
Well, we took him and changed him out to the Royal Robbins vest that has that hardened panel on the side. So we'll see if that actually affects his draw at all. His draw last time was a 195. So load and make ready. This is an interesting discussion to have. You okay? All right. Go ahead and unload. Show clear. Clear. Fly forward. Holster. All right. Do you remember what your time was last time?
8 90, 910, something like that.
Okay. Do you think you were faster this time than last time, or slower this time than last time?
I think I was actually slower on my movement to these targets.
So you think you were slower? By how much?
Half a second, maybe.
So you think the total time was a 9 something?
Probably.
You were an 892.
Okay.
So perception doesn't equal reality when you're shooting. If you feel you're slow, you might be doing very well, or you might be doing poorly. You can't tell.
Right.
You can't judge your performance on your perception. You have to judge it on a clock and a score sheet and what you did, what you did downrange.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you got into this position here and you transitioned to that far target, so you didn't know where to go. You
Right.
came back to this one, then shot it that way.
Right.
If you screw up a transition like that, and it's not going to be one of the penalty stages where you have to shoot them in a particular order, just shoot the target that's in front of the gun.
Stay with where you're at.
You got to be fluid with it and let it go no matter what happens. If you get there and your gun ends up on that target, shoot it.
Okay.
And then just just reverse that chunk of the stage if you have to.
Okay.
If that's an option, you're not going to get a penalty for it.
Okay.
This is Chris Query. He's going to run the stage. Just like we ran it, we're going to be able to compare the times and stuff and see if we can improve him a little bit. Yes, doing tactical sequence on the left side, 3 on each on these. Shooter ready.
You're ready.
Stand by. Pretty good on the movement, although you came straight back, then you went over. That's what it looked like. If you'd have just angled that a little bit, you'd almost been able to drop to a knee right off of that target. So what we're looking for is something along, so we're here. Okay, minimize your movement.
Okay, my reload was too far away from me. I completely missed the mag launch.
Yeah, you tried to reload way out here instead of back where you can actually see everything that's happening. Okay. Time was an 8:46. Let's see where you lost some time. Go ahead and step over here. Okay, 129 on the draw. It's a pretty good draw though. Nice and solid there, so you didn't lose much there. Your splits are okay. You're between targets, you're running a 39. You'd want to actually cut that down. There's no reason that split shouldn't be a 30 or less.
Okay.
You're a 166 going into this position. I'm running about a 95.
Okay.
So that's a big chunk
That's
of time.
huge, yeah.
Yeah, big chunk of time there. And then 34s, and you're at 317 on your reload. So you lost over a second on that. If you cleaned up your draw and your reload, you'd probably be within a second of my time. Just those two things. Okay?
Ready. Stand by.
Well, stop.
I just call it man.
Stand by. You're ready. Stand by. Shooter ready. Stand by. Stand by.
Outstanding. Reload to the forward, please. 3-3-0.
3-3-0.
Tickets for the ship. She was all upset with my lane.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Shooter ready. Stand by.
Holster hot. Go ahead and put it in the holster. Are you ready? Stand by. Are you ready? Stand by. Are you ready? Stand by.
Welcome to Practical Shooting Video Volume 5, Winning IDPA Techniques. I'm Matt Burkett and this is Kevin Elpers. We're going to be covering safety, the guns and gear for the sport, and shooting a bunch of stages to really help. Yeah, that's one.
Shooting a bunch of stages.
Yeah.
Is that like
Bring it back up.
Is that like a bunch of carrots?
Welcome to Practical Shooting Video Volume 5, Winning IDPA Techniques. Hi, I'm Matt Burkett and this is Kevin Elpers. We're going to be covering the guns and gear of the sport, shooting a bunch of stages for you, and I need to get rid of the bunch of things, don't I? Bring that camera back up. I had to shorten it. It didn't work so well. Welcome to Practical Shooting Video Volume 5, Winning IDPA Techniques. I'm Matt Burkett and this is Kevin Elpers. We're going to get started with safety on the range. At least we got one stupid one in. And that's all you're going to say at the beginning? Well, that was the last intro. Volume 4 was that way. Welcome to... Anyway, we're going to have Matt Cartosian come up now and tell you about some of the illegal equipment that's seen out on the sport and hopefully have you fix that up so you're actually legal on the range. And that really sucked, didn't it?
Don't move.
Cut it away. Action? Okay.
Caddy's getting a little testy now.
He's cute when he's feisty. All right, the basic movement in IDP. What do I say? All right. All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Anyway, what we talking about? All right. All right.
Can we move up?
Can we just scoot this way just a little bit?
Because I'd like to be about 2 feet away if we had our druthers.
Okay. Stay right there.
Now.
All right. Now we're on stage 3.
Stage 3, string 1.
That really sucked at the end, didn't it?
It's all right. It's good enough. It's hot.
Do a speed reload, or excuse me, do an emergency. I caught it. Do an emergency reload if possible, because it's going to be significantly faster in the long run.
Probably ought to start that all over.
Ready? You do realize it's 104 degrees out here. Okay. Now I'm going to take and engage these 3 targets around the corner in tactical priority. And that's the target that appears first, or the nearest target. For this one, that's the target right there. Now I don't want to expose myself to that target. I can have half of my A zone exposed, or half of my upper body basically, but I can't.
Start over.
Why?
You can't have A zone in fucking IDPA.
I think that's actually what it says in the book.
They don't know what a frickin' A zone is if they shoot IDPA. It's
Ready?
100% below the hips and 50% of your torso. And head.
All right. Now I'm going to take and engage. Let me give a second pause or so before I do that, right?
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I thought so.
I'm actually getting a little cold right now. That slit in the back's actually kind of nice. It lets a little airflow.
Just get a little bit of breathing on it. Ready?
Give me a photo from camera 2.
What are we doing?
Actually, we'll do it to the jib. Well, yeah, leave it on the jib so they can actually see the targets and how I'm angling around them.
Right, give me an
Doing
idea
kneeling.
what we're doing.
I'm doing kneeling.
You or me?
Me.
Okay.
Okay. Turn yourself away just a little bit there. Huh?
You hear that?
Can you hear that? What? Well, he wants you up, he wants you down, what? Okay, if you run into the tripod with your knee and I see the camera do this, that's probably bad.
We're ready.
We need to load make ready again here or not? No, because we're still hot.
No, we're still hot.
String 4, stage 2.
That's right when I opened my mouth. String 4, stage 2. Yes, stage 2, string 4. You said it backwards.
I said string 4, stage 2. Stage 2,
Fourth string
4.
of the second stage. Not going to have any shortage of outtakes this time. We're at 7 on this one, right?
Yep.
All right.
Do you mind if I had the book in my hand?
No.
Okay.
Read them off. There you go. Now he's going to fire around, the slide will lock back, and he's going to perform a speed reload.
How's that, boss?
Or maybe not.
What is the tactical reasoning behind that? We weren't going to do that, were we? I just had to ask that question.
Huge.
Sorry, dickhead. Let's go.
All right, well then go stand over there for a second. Well, actually, we were walking back here. Come back here. Come back here.
We're not going to pick that up together. There's no way we're going to be in exactly the same spot.
We don't have to, but we just fade us walking out and walking back.
Okay. There's some dummies in there. Or is this
No.
not working either?
It doesn't like you. Guns don't like you. Why don't you take up golf or something? Now, sometimes in IDPA, the match directors or the people running them, that really kind of...
Would kind of be redundant, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be the same guy probably.
Yeah, the match director.
All right. Sometimes in IDPA, the match directors will take and they'll put T-shirts on the targets. And that's to obscure the aiming zone, so you don't really know where to aim on the targets.
Scoring zones, you mean?
Now, this is going to take a bit. Okay, is the scoring systems.
Right.
The scoring system ZipSic is fairly complicated. If you know anything about the Comstock scoring, Yeah, that stuff.
Yeah.
Believe me, we got a lot of these.
We'll get a lot more. I'm trying to at least give you some feedback, unlike what Kevin did on the tape. When you say something, I at least respond to it.
Yeah.
Take like a quarter step back.
One of the things to do when you're practicing for IDPA then is to get set up a bunch of targets. Of course, I should put down the IPSC target when I'm doing this.
Right.
That would.
Why don't we just take these and I'll hold them while you talk.
Okay. Let's try that again. Over here. Nat sound, take 147 million.